are demanding a new sensibility, a new philosophy of government from Washington. Instead of sending spies to snoop on participants at Earth Day, I would welcome the efforts of concerned citizens of all ages to stop the abuse of our environment. Instead of watching a football game on television while young people beg for the attention of their president concerning our actions abroad, I would encourage them to speak out, organize for peaceful change, and vote in November. Instead of blocking efforts to control the huge amounts of money given political candidates by the rich and the powerful, I would provide certain limits on such amounts and encourage all the people of this nation to contribute small sums to the candidates of their choice. Instead of calculating the political costs of this or that policy and of weighing favors of this or that group, depending on whether that group voted for me in 1968, I would remind all Americans at this hour of the words of Abraham Lincoln, "A house divided cannot stand."
Long before Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, Cory Booker, Deval Patrick, and other black folk who ran for president, there was Shirley Anita St. Hill Chisholm, who ran back in 1972, 50 years ago. Today, on what would have been her 98th birthday, a conversation about Shirley Chisholm's life and lasting legacy with Dr. Zinga A. Fraser, director of the Shirley Chisholm Project on Brooklyn women's activism. I am pleased to have her in this hour. Dr. Fraser, how are you today?
I'm great, Tavis. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well, and I am delighted to have you on this program for the hour. So much to talk about as we celebrate what would have been the 98th birthday of one Shirley Chisholm. Let me start with this. I at the top of the show 2 hours ago, since I'm on for 3 hours every day, I played that clip and said we'd be talking to you in this hour. And I opined then, and I want to re-opine now, what I hear when I hear that clip of Shirley Chisholm. Here's a woman, a black woman, 50 years ago, talking about environmental justice, talking about issues of war and peace. Long before Bernie Sanders and his small campaign contributions that allowed him to raise more money than anybody, she's talking about campaign finance reform. 50 years ago, she's talking about identity politics. If that ain't a visionary, Dr. Fraser, I don't know what is.
Well, I think you hit it on the nail. I mean, Chisholm was developing a people's coalition that we see the fruition when we talk about a Bernie Sanders, or really when we think about Barack Obama and his ability to gain access to the White House. Chisholm was not only a visionary in terms of being one of the first people to talk against the Vietnam War during that time, but she's a visionary, talking about the prison industrial complex when she's running in 72, before there was a name, the prison industrial complex, right? And so she is, a visionary, and so much of what's disremembered about Shirley Chisholm is the symbolic references, right? But not the nuanced engagement that you provided with that clip that shows that Chisholm was a thoughtful and strategic leader. Beyond being the first of anything, she made a way to think about progressive politics and what it looked like and how it was embodied by people who really had a certain kind of integrity. She's got a lot of flack. We talk about her now, and she's remembered now in some, kind of sanitized way. But what we just remember is really her radical politics in 68 and 72.
We're going to talk about the sanitize and deodorize Shirley Chisholm. If you live as time goes on, people tend to do that to radical leaders. They did it to Dr. King, but there's a radical MLK. They did it to Mandela, but there is a radical Nelson Mandela. They've done it to Shirley Chisholm, but there's a radical Shirley Chisholm. My friend Cornel West calls it the Santa Clausification the Santa Clausification of these black icons. What he means by that phrase is that they present these figures to us as if they're Santa Claus with a big smile on his face and a bag of toys on his back and making everybody happy. The Santa Clausification, West says, of our leaders. Again, they've done it to King, they've done it to Mandela, and they have done it to Shirley Chisholm. We're going to talk about in this hour about the radical Shirley Chisholm. Let me ask a couple questions right quick before I move forward on things you've already said. First of all, speaking of MLK, who I've written a book about, we know the pushback that King got when he came out against the Vietnam War. And it wasn't just pushback. Dr. King died, I write in this text, he died a pariah. It wasn't until years later, 20 years later plus, that we celebrate him with a holiday. But when he died, he was persona non grata. He was toxic. He was disinvited to speak at black churches, disinvited to speak at colleges, disinvited to make all the media appearances he'd become known for, because he was organizing this poor people's campaign, which they didn't care about. And he was critiquing Lyndon Johnson and the White House for this war in Vietnam. And so they basically turned against Dr. King. I say by they, I mean the media, white folk, and frankly, black folk. They wanted black power. The younger generation wanted black power, and King was too passive for them. The older generations liked Lyndon Johnson because of the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act, and thought King was making a mistake to push back so vehemently and so publicly against Lyndon Johnson. So King caught hell for coming out against the war in Vietnam. What price did Shirley Chisholm pay for her stance?
Well, she paid a significant price. It's important to note that Chisholm's first speech in Congress is about her stance against the Vietnam War. And so a lot of people, said, you just got to Congress, there's no need to rock the boat. But Chisholm was vehemently against the Vietnam War when she was running against James Farmer, who was the kind of political darling, and everyone thought would win that campaign. And so Chisholm really paid a price in terms of her stances against the Vietnam War, but it also landed her on the list. We don't know until much later that she becomes a part of a list of Congressional Black members, who she's one of the founding members of the Congressional Black Caucus, right?
That's right? And
she's a part of the CBC members who become a part of a list that Nixon creates that talks about undesirables, right? And so we don't learn that until, of course, the impeachment and, all of the things around Watergate. But Chisholm pays a price in terms of her perceptions, in terms of working with people in Congress, as well as, becoming someone who's seen as an enemy of the state, per se, by Nixon when she comes out against the Vietnam War.
She was a trailblazer, and so in this hour, we're celebrating the life and legacy of Shirley Chisholm, who ran for president 50 years ago this year, and today would have been her 98th birthday. I am pleased to be joined for the hour in conversation by Dr. Zinga A. Fraser, the director of the Shirley Chisholm Project on Brooklyn women's activism. When we come forward, we'll talk about how she became such a visionary. We'll talk about how she developed this worldview that allowed her to talk about issues like environmental justice and war and peace and campaign finance and the prison industrial complex long before these things were even given the terms by which we refer to them today, being a founding member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Again, a visionary and icon. We're celebrating in this hour Shirley Chisholm on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with Dom Kennedy at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. They're here to promote generational wealth building in Black communities. He's an independent rapper and the owner of OPM record label. Dom Kennedy, why do you find it important to be here today at this event with Chase?
For me, we've been having a lot of conversations with them, and giving me a lot of good facts and a lot of good feedback that I felt like needed to be shared. And if people heard it, they would take to the information, and it would help them on their quest to be homeowners and just better off financially across the board. You know, they like my perspective, and being an artist and somebody that people knew that was born and raised in LA, people older and like bank managers could kind of be a little intimidating, I guess, to everyday people, especially that has never purchased a home. So just the angle of me being able to communicate it and make the story real, you know, I guess for the younger people was a great opportunity, and I didn't want to pass on.
That's awesome. So answer me this. Why is it important for companies like Chase to promote generational wealth in Black and brown communities?
Keep it real, you know, I mean, they make a lot of money off the Black and brown communities. I look at it like it's a great responsibility for them to take on, to want to share some knowledge and some facts and try to put more people in homes, you know, and give them a shot at and a chance at generational wealth. I think it's beneficial to both parties, you know.
I'm Aisha Cairo, and that was Dom Kennedy. Stay tuned for more tips from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour.
Congratulations to this week's KBLA Talk 1580 Office of the Week, LA County Department of Children and Family Services. LA County Department of Children and Family Services promotes child safety and well-being by partnering with communities to strengthen family. Congratulations, LA County DCFS.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours.
Spilled your milkshake? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading Ordinary brand. So you can get back to your milkshake.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Tavis. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Our phone number 1-800-920-1580, 1-800-920-1580. Our guest in this hour is Dr. Zinga A. Fraser, who is the director of the Shirley Chisholm Project on Brooklyn women's activism. Today would have been Shirley Chisholm's 98th birthday, and it was 50 years ago this year that she made history as a black woman running for president of these United States. So long before Barack and Kamala and Corey and Al and Jesse and Duvall and others who run for president in black skin, Shirley Chisholm was there, and we are celebrating in this hour her life and legacy 50 years after her historic run. I want to play a clip right quick here of another clip of Shirley Chisholm appearing on Meet the Press. It's a Shirley Chisholm on Meet the Press. Take a listen.
Mrs. Chisholm, how do you account for the fact that no more blacks than have come to your cause in this primary process and now at the convention?
Well, I think you have to recognize, first of all, gentlemen, you have to really recognize that I'm doing something in this country that's never really been done before. It's a question of inculcation, reorientation, and education. Never before in this country, ever since the inception of the Republic, have you had a woman seriously running for the presidency. I'm not talking about someone nominating someone at the convention as a mere gesture of symbolism and tokenism. I'm talking about someone that has been going out in the highways and byways for the past 7.5 months and saying to the American people that if indeed this is a multifaceted society, that Mrs. Chisholm also can be considered a person that can run for the presidency of this country. I was breaking a tradition in which only white males have only been the gentlemen in this country that have guided the ship of state. So you don't expect people, black, white, men, or women, to suddenly overcome a tradition that has been steeped ever since the inception of this republic. So I understand that. I've broken the ice.
Shirley Chisholm put it down, man. I mean, you cannot fade her presentation, and that's a black woman in 72 talking to a bunch of white men on Meet the Press, and she did not bite her tongue. Long live the memory, the life, the legacy of one Shirley Chisholm. Dr. Zinga A. Fraser, when you hear that clip, how does it fall on you?
Well, it falls on me if she could read, as they would say, as my students would say. She could definitely read people for what they were worth. And what's also interesting to note about the Meet the Press and just her on national TV, she literally had to fight She had an FCC suit against NBC at the time because they would not allow her the same amount of time as the other white male candidates who were running for the presidency at that time. But, I mean, you know, Chisholm was such a phenomenal, I think what we also just remember about her was that she was such a phenomenal orator, speaker, and strategist.
Yes.
And she really had the ability to speak to the people, but also engage in a kind of intellectual assassination of folks who really questioned, right, her ability, not only her ability as a black woman, but her ability as a congressional political person. But she really is able to pull people, you know, together to understand that she was really forceful, that she was intellectual, but she was also humble and compassionate and empathetic. I mean, she was able to do all of this in a number of words, right, and connect people who in many ways wouldn't be connected. I think what's also extraordinary about Chisholm is that you have people who hated her and loved her, but they in many ways respected her, right? They didn't necessarily like or agree with her in terms of her political stances, but a number of them, even some of the most, you know, adamant racists of the time would also talk about Chisholm at least being consistent. They admired her for her consistency, they admired her for her fervor, and they admired her for her intelligence. And that's saying a lot about a number, especially the Dixiecrats during that time, that had the admiration for Chisholm and her ability to really speak to the people as well as to, you know, those who were naysayers.
I was saying to a group of folk just yesterday in Northern California that consistency matters. Your use of the word consistency just took me back to that moment yesterday. Consistency matters in life. We have ups and we have downs. And the reason why you live your life, this is me speaking now, the reason why you live your life as Shirley Chisholm did, by a set of immutable principles is because consistency matters. Folk may not always agree, but they'll always respect you as long as you are consistent to those immutable principles by which you live your life. And Shirley Chisholm is Exhibit A in that regard. I love the phrase you use, intellectual assassination. That's exactly what she did on Meet the Press that day. That was intellectual assassination, and she did it countless times in her political career, which leads me to ask this foundational question, which is how did Shirley Chisholm go about establishing such an enlightened worldview in 1972 as a black woman? Give me the backstory. How did she, again, create and come to be so global and yet local in her thinking at the same time?
Well, Chisholm is, I would always consider her a daughter of Brooklyn. But the ways in which I think about her as a daughter of Brooklyn is because of Brooklyn at that time is a diasporic place. And Chisholm is also a daughter of immigrants, Caribbean immigrants. And she spent her time, when most people think of the American immigration story, they think of going from the Caribbean and coming to the United States as her parents did. But during the Depression, because it was so hard and difficult for her mother and father, her mother sends her back, actually goes with her and her two sisters back to Barbados to live in Barbados. And she spends her primary years in Barbados and then comes back to Brooklyn. And the reason why I mention that is because Chisholm has a worldview of colonialism, imperialism, the ways in which African-descended people are oppressed throughout the world. She sees it happening in Barbados, and of course she sees it happening in Brooklyn. And her reason for being in Barbados is also talking about how the Depression and how, you know, economic sanctions really impacted black people and specifically black immigrants at that time. So that perspective of growing up in those kind of spaces really helped her create her own kind of worldview. And then growing up in Brooklyn, her parents, are striving like so many African American and Caribbean and diasporic people are doing during that time. And she's seeing what's going on around her in Brooklyn and the influence of her father being connected in admiration of Marcus Garvey, and her going to some of these UNIA meetings. And then much later, when she, becomes a teenager and she goes on to college, her being connected to a lot of the Caribbean politicians in Brooklyn and New York City who are really vying for political representation of that time. And so Chisholm comes of age in a time when, Harlem is fertile with black political leaders like Adam Clayton Powell and other people like Paul Robeson and others, and socialists who are in the black community in Harlem as well as Brooklyn. And really, she goes to a meeting at a local political machine meeting, and people were complaining that they weren't picking up trash in the black community, and there were very few people who were standing up to say something. And so she also pictured the meeting where the blacks were on one side and white people were on the other side. And, she really addressed and thought about the ways in which inequality looked like in her community. And all of these things are the reasons why we have this kind of cosmopolitan but really progressive politics that she forms in 68 and 72 when she runs, because she's around all of these progressive, radical thinkers of the time during her early years in Brooklyn.
She had such a vast intellect. To what do you attribute that? What do we know about how she became such a wise woman?
Well, she loved to read. People think it's, there has to be this really long, drawn-out idea of why she was a phenom. But her ability to really understand the world in which she operated from really was from her love of books and her ability to read a significant portion of, I would think, to be kind of really radical black political thought. Reading things that were in the Black Scholar and other kind of black political publications of the time. And then, some of it is also something in terms of like an osmosis of being around strong black women who may not have had a college education, but really had a common sense and understanding of the world. And she valued that common sense thinking. Yeah. And that ability to sit around, as Audre Lorde would talk about, the kitchen table, or Paulie Marshall, who was a black literary writer during that time, talks about the role of the kitchen table specifically for African American women and the way that it's played as an intellectual institution for them. And so she was able to, ground herself in that kind of humbleness and compassion and empathy, something that, Ella Baker, who I taught about this week to my students, did, and her upbringing coming from North Carolina and having a communal and understanding that organizing isn't just going into a community and telling the community what they need, but listening to that community and trying to gather a rapport with that community and then provide them with the skills needed to get what they need for that community. And Chisholm is very similar in that kind of way, in her ability to really listen to people, but also create an intellectual way to talk if she has to talk to policymakers, and read books that address those things, but also the ability to ascertain and conceptualize what she's read and provide it in a different way to the masses of people that she's trying to help and assist.
When we come forward, I want to come back to this point here. When we come forward after news, traffic, and sports, I want to come back to this point about her backstory. And I'm curious specifically as to how her being a daughter of immigrants allowed her to see America. when you see America through the eyes of being the child of immigrants, you see it differently than those of us who were born in gut bucket Mississippi or Alabama, Georgia, or the Deep South or other parts of this country like I was. And so I'm wondering how her being a daughter of immigrants shaped her vision, her view of America, that she eventually goes on to serve as an elected official representing New York, Brooklyn, in the U.S. Congress. A great deal more to talk about. Beyond that, how black folk responded to her campaign for president 50 years ago today. And, of course, we're going to talk about the radical Shirley Chisholm. A lot more to cover in our conversation with Dr. Zinga A. Fraser as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Shirley Chisholm running for presidency in this country and her 98th, what would have been her 98th birthday today. More of our Shirley Chisholm celebration when we come forward after news, traffic, and sports. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Vice President Harris hosted French President Emmanuel Macron at NASA headquarters as part of Macron's state visit this week. The U.S. and France are highlighting their partnership on space exploration.
In 2 weeks, the United States and France will launch a satellite from Vandenberg, in my home state of California, which will conduct the first ever global survey of the Earth's water.
Harris said the two nations plan to deepen their collaboration on space in support of Earth, the climate, and space science. Black St. Louis man Kevin Johnson, convicted of killing a police officer in 2005, is dead after being executed by lethal injection last night. His attorneys filed several motions in an effort to halt the execution over claims that racial discrimination played a role in his conviction and death sentence. Job openings dropped in October, that's according to the Labor Department, which puts the number at 10.33 million. And that's the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
South LA, West Athens area, we're seeing a collision blocking the right lane. Taking the 105 west, they're putting this around Vermont, West 105. The right lane taking over the crash, busy from the 110. South LA, that 110, a lot of high traffic volume. North 110, Century up towards the 10 freeway. La Crescenta, your 210 east at Lowell, a crash onto the right shoulder here. And a busy drive in Rowland Heights Industry taking that 60 west. Fullerton Road towards Santa Anita. Had a crash in that area earlier. That's now out of our way, but still seeing a busy drive.
NetSpend All Access. Get the mobile banking account with perks that add up. Banking services provided by and account established by Pathward NA. Member FDIC. Deposit account opening is subject to registration and ID verification. Terms and costs apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
USC is on the doorstep of making their first appearance in the 9-year history of the Division I college football playoffs. The 11-1 Trojans moved up to number 4 in this week's playoff ranking. All the Trojans have to do is beat Utah on Friday in the Pac-12 Conference Championship game in Vegas. The 3 teams above the Trojans, Georgia, Michigan, and Texas Christian. More good news for the Trojans. Sophomore quarterback Khalid Williams has emerged as the frontrunner for the Heisman Trophy Award. Norman Powell scored 22 of his 32 points in the fourth quarter to spark the Clippers to a 118-112 win at Portland. The Lakers play Portland tonight at Crypto.com. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to your settlement, we're a slam dunk. Call 833-MVP-WINS or check their website at themvp.com for a free case review.
When you're the victim of a car accident, hiring the right law firm can be the difference between a rewarding settlement and striking out. Call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys at 833-MVP-WINS for your free consultation.
Call on me, your MVP.
Over 100 million people around the world have felt the thrill of Broadway's most spectacular musical, Disney's The Lion King. And now you can too. Experience this breathtaking theatrical event and see why the New York Times declares there is simply nothing else like it.
Give the gift that roars at the Pantages Theater, February 2nd through March 26th. Visit BroadwayInHollywood.com.
The Institute for Diversity Certification is all about the 3 Ds: dedication, determination, and discipline.
Learn more about our globally recognized diversity certification program today by calling 1-800-983-6192. Again, 1-800-983-6192, or visit diversitycertification.org. As the #1 organization for certified diversity professionals and also certified diversity executive credentials, diversitycertification.org will provide an opportunity for you to demonstrate dedication to the field, determination to make progress, and more discipline to your process. Go today and learn more about the diversity certification system. Call 1-800-983-6192. Again, 1-800-983-6192. Or go to diversitycertification.org. That's diversitycertification.org. The standard of excellence, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
On Saturday, December 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., come out and enjoy a free community health fair, co-sponsored by Pleasant Hill Baptist Church Health Ministry and the Central Neighborhood Health Foundation. The fair will be held on the church grounds at 2009 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, with free health screenings, refreshments, jumpers for the kids, a visit from Santa, entertainment with a DJ, free food giveaway for the first 100 people who attend, as well as raffles and other prizes. There will also be open enrollment, health insurance representatives present. Attendees can get free blood pressure, glucose, HIV and STD testing, a dental screening, fluoride varnish, COVID testing, vaccines and boosters. Flu shots will also be offered. Housing navigation, mental health support, and education services will be available. Don't miss this free community health fair. Tell somebody and receive the gift of preventative health services this season. See you all on Saturday, December 3rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 2009 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Los Angeles.
We're not ratings driven. We're engagement driven. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
Check it out. Shirley Chisholm ran for president of these United States 50 years ago this year. Were she alive today, she'd be turning 98. But we are celebrating her life and legacy in this hour with our guest, Dr. Zinga A. Fraser, who is the director of the Shirley Chisholm Project on Brooklyn women's activism. Before I jump back into our conversation, here's a short clip of an impromptu sort of press conference that Shirley Chisholm had to hold on a street in Brooklyn.
So I realize that this is a rough road, but a catalyst for change in a society is usually persona non grata with those who have been the beneficiaries of the system. A catalyst for change has to be able to withstand the insults, the humiliations, the abuses, and the slurs. What's wrong with my running for president of this country? After all, for 15 years, I have been the ghostwriter for a lot of them.
That's a cold phrase. that right there will preach, as we say. For 15 years, I have been a ghostwriter for many of them. That's a cold line, Dr. Fraser. That's a cold line.
She had bars, as they say. She had bars.
Yeah, she's dropping bars. She's dropping bars, man. But when I heard that clip, a ghostwriter for many of them, my Lord, we could unpack that for a couple hours, just that one line.
Indeed. And I mean, I think who she was talking about, that's the T is who was she specifically speaking about. But what she was saying is that she was definitely, especially a number of the women in the district that she's from, which is a district that I came out of, right? Mm-hmm. They were really they were the ones who really ran the campaigns and did the work. And so she's talking about the black political leadership, male black political leadership, in fact, that she's working with in terms of the political machines that were operating in Kings County during that time. And so, she knows what, she has some kind of entrance into the back rooms of politics in Brooklyn during that time. And so she's speaking to also the frustration not only of herself, but the tons of black women who are really the backbone of these political campaigns. And if there was a success to have black representation during that time in Brooklyn, it was because of these women and their ability to not only ghostwrite, but finance and provide strategies for winning. And so that's what she's talking about in that time. Mm-hmm.
How would you situate, and I'm using the word situate because I don't want to, it's not about comparing or contrasting per se, both brilliant sisters in their own right. I never had a chance to meet Shirley Chisholm, but I did have the honor of meeting and interviewing Barbara Jordan. So I did get to spend some time just loving on Barbara Jordan. But when I think of Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan ain't that far off. And let me just pivot just for a second. How would you situate Chisholm and Barbara Jordan?
Well, that's what my book is about.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been, and I literally, have spent so much time in Houston, Texas, and got to interview, tons of people who knew Barbara Jordan, as well as, her family members. So, I mean, there are significant differences between Jordan and Chisholm, and it's something that I talk about in detail in terms of taking a phrase from R.G. Lord's sister outsider, sister insider is what I say. And so Jordan really is a master of how to play the political game. I don't think people give Jordan enough credit for her ability to turn the most vehement racists in the Texas, state legislature, as well as those who were in Congress at the time, and even those who were just in the South. How much admiration. I tell people the only way to express how beloved Jordan is go to Austin, Texas, and go at the bottom floor, I believe, of the airport, and you see an entire bronze larger-than-life statue of Barbara Jordan. And when I first saw it, I could not believe it. Mm-hmm. Because I was like, wow, she is literally in this airport in full form. And I've never seen, a statue that embodied someone of that nature. And it's because of the admiration, white or black, all races, that people had for Jordan. And it really was because she was a master at playing politics. She played politics like a master plays chess. And so she was really good at that, and she was a great legislator, her ability to do that, right? And Chisholm is great at playing politics, but I wouldn't say she's great as Jordan. She takes an outsider approach. She's going to talk about people on TV, in the streets, on the corner, and she takes a different kind of approach to try to pull the needle. It doesn't mean that she didn't have a strategy. In that time, she was strategic, but she has a different approach in terms of how she operates. And because she understood, that there was a limitation in terms of the number of black representatives, there was a limitation in terms of who had political control and power. But Jordan, is able to understand politics in a different way because she's also coming from a different space. Yeah. It's hard to compare them because one is in the North and one is in the South, and they have a different kind of political constituency that's very different. Jordan's political constituency in Houston is very different than Chisholm's political constituency. So, sometimes Chisholm had the ability to do things that Jordan wouldn't be politically feasible for Jordan to do. Yeah. And Jordan really believed that there was a way to maneuver the system, and that was the best way to address the politics. And Chisholm, in so many ways, believed that, I've seen tons of people abide by a certain kind of rule of politics, and they never do when it comes to us. So the only way for me to be a catalyst for change is to work inside, but mainly outside as a national spokesperson. And it's something that, does also get Chisholm into hot water with a number of the Congressional Black Caucus members, because it was really a debate around what is the political strategy for the CBC in the late 1960s and early 1970s.
Yep. Now I look forward to that text. Sister Insider, Sister Outsider, Shirley Chisholm and Barbara Jordan, Black Women's Politics in the Post Civil Rights Era, the book that our guest, Dr. Zinga Fraser, is working on right now. I can't wait to get that one. I'm watching my time here. Let me ask you this question right quick. I mentioned earlier that I wanted to ask, and I will now, about how her being a daughter of immigrants sort of formed her view of America. I'm just trying to figure out how she became, and I'm using this word obviously in a grand sense, so radical in her thoughts and views.
I think anyone who grows up connected and understanding poverty has a different worldview. And for Chisholm, her parents being economic immigrants had a significant impact on her worldview and her understanding of what a number of people in her community were facing, right? Mm-hmm. Her mother is a seamstress, as well as someone who she comes out of, the Caribbean women in her community, mainly in African-American women in Bedford-Stuyvesant, as well as Williamsburg, worked as domestics, and looking at those women go out every morning, when it's dark at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work for a white family, whether it be throughout Brooklyn or in the city. Her father was a laborer who worked as in a bakery. And so all of those things really have an impact on radicalizing Chisholm and thinking about the ways in which the American dream did not operate or exist as the same ways as it did for a predominantly white, middle class, upper class constituency. And so that radicalizes her to look at inequality, to address things in legislation like she does in terms of looking at having legislation that address the minimum wage, having legislation that address domestic workers, having legislation to address the issues around the disparities around immigrations versus Haitians versus Cubans. So all of those kind of things really impacted and radicalized Chisholm. And growing up in Bedford-Stuyvesant did that work as well.
You heard Dr. Fraser say a moment ago that her truth-telling rankled feathers of some members of the Congressional Black Caucus, of which she is a founding member. So again, she didn't hold her tongue. But I am curious when we come forward as to how black folk writ large regarded her campaign for the White House 50 years ago this year. We are celebrating what would have been the 98th birthday of the iconic, the legendary, the trailblazing Shirley Chisholm on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward.
Huffington Post reports a mental health crisis among black students. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News. Rates of depression and anxiety among black students have been increasing at a staggering rate. A study from the National Institute of Health found that approximately 34% of black students reported feeling so depressed in the last year that it was difficult to function. Black students attending HBCUs have also been dealing with additional stress of bomb threats at their universities and suddenly not having access to abortion services in the wake of Roe versus Wade. According to the CDC, black women in the U.S. are 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related complications, and abortion restrictions could increase the maternal mortality rate for black women. Huffington Post also reports that the quest to raising awareness for mental illness among black Americans is a priority. Tell us what you think about this story and more on all socials at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
When you're the victim of a car accident, hiring the right law firm can be the difference between a rewarding settlement and striking out. Call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys at 833-MVP-WINS for your free consultation.
Call on me, your MVP.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. It's normal. With CalHope's free and secure mental health resources, it's easy to get the help you and your loved ones need when you need it the most. Call our warm line at 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
If you're a Los Angeles Department of Water and Power residential customer, listen to this. LADWP now offers convenient monthly billing through the new Level Pay program. Level Pay helps you budget for your utility bill with a predictable monthly amount that can also include past due balances. You'll know exactly how much you need to pay each month. Don't wait. Sign up today for Level Pay by calling 1-800-DIAL-DWP. That's 1-800-DIAL-DWP.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
Dr. Fraser, take me back 50 years ago this year and tell me how black folk writ large responded to Shirley Chisholm's historic campaign for the White House. We played a clip of her on Meet the Press earlier, and they were pressing her on what level of black support she was receiving in her campaign. But what's the real story here?
Well, the real story is that a number of people really doubted her ability to run in 72. Frankly put, a number of people thought she was crazy. And Chisholm really had a valiant effort. I think what gets people focused is her inability to get the nomination in 72 and see that as a failure. But really, I tell people that we shouldn't think about 72 as a moment of failure, but as a moment of a building block that provides entrance of the people that we spoke about earlier in our conversation. And so Chisholm is running, number one, as she says in that statement, because it was a way to think about or rethink who has the audacity, but who has the ability to run for the presidency. And does it have to be the domain of white men, white middle-aged men? And so Chisholm is going up against a number of black political leaders who want to be power brokers. And a lot of people are reinventing history, right? So you have people like Walter Fauntroy, who is really advocating for a favorite son, and Julian Bond, who are advocating for a favorite son category to manipulate or at least find a way to attack an agenda for the black political agenda with Mary Baraka and all of the others who are really meeting around that time. There were all these really big meetings in 70 and 71 around a political candidate, but not really about a political candidate, but a black political agenda. And so Chisholm, you know, she stumps a lot of the men, and that's the reality, because she's not waiting for a consensus. Her ability to be strategic is like, I'm not going to wait for someone to tell me I can run. I am going to run. And if you are going to support me, fine. If you're not, that's okay too.
There you go.
And so it ruffles feathers because she doesn't wait to be adorned by black political leadership. She believes that she is a people's candidate, and she's running not only for black people, as she would say, but she's running for women. She's running for everyone. And that also ruffled feathers with the black political leadership because they also wanted her to say that she was only going to run as a black candidate. And so that inability for some of black male political leadership to see the intersectionality of what she was trying to do. And Chisholm understood black people cannot elect the presidency, right? So we also have to find a way that we can merge and create a coalition with other people to really significantly impact what was going on in 72.
Our remaining moments with Dr. Zinga A. Fraser as we continue our celebration on what would have been her 98th birthday of the unbought and unbossed Shirley Chisholm on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where we turn red lights to green lights and keep it moving.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution as we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be. We share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net. And together, we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stop the Violence, Increase the Peace Foundation is a nonprofit community-based organization dedicated to fostering peace while mitigating violence in our society. Established in 1993, Stop the Violence, Increase the Peace has provided a wide variety of assistance to thousands of youth, families, and victims of violence over the past 3 decades, including intervention services, conflict and dispute resolution training, grief counseling, and victims advocacy. In addition, the foundation offers an array of classes focused on anger management, domestic violence, parenting, substance abuse, and more. To make a donation or to access services, call 323-445-8620. That's 323-445-8620 or visit www.increasethepeacefoundation.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Come on, we're gonna be late to the cookout.
I was just packing up my famous mac and cheese.
I hope you packed the Pepto, too.
Huh?
Pepto-Bismol provides fast relief from heartburn and indigestion. You know, that uncomfortable feeling after you eat too much. And after the deviled eggs, baked beans, and barbecue ribs, you're gonna need it.
Barbecue ribs? I should probably pack an extra shirt, too.
Good call.
When you have nausea, heartburn, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Pepto-Bismol. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Interrogating your assumptions and expanding your inventory of ideas. Let's get back to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
I've got a tight 4 minutes left here, Dr. Fraser. Let me ask you a couple questions right quick here. Number one, we talked earlier about her being on Nixon's undesirables list. Nixon hated a whole lot of people, but what made Shirley Chisholm undesirable for him?
For him, her ability to, as I say, assassinate him with words, her progressive politics. Chisholm was connected in many ways to the people, and she called Nixon out at every chance she could in terms of his inability to really address the political and social and economic needs of marginalized people. And so that's really why Nixon hated her. And she also says that she wouldn't, at that time, vote for any appropriations of funding for the military or any appropriations bill until Nixon got out of the Vietnam War. And so that's, why he hated her so much.
How would you situate her progressivism then in the American political experiment today?
We see moments. I think it's ironic that we're at a political time where, literally today, Hakeem Jeffries gets the vote for the leadership of the DNC, him coming from Brooklyn. He actually spoke her name today on the House floor. But I think what we see is, Chisholm can also be a dividing line. I think, she's a dividing line for a new progressive black politics that we see in the younger members of the Congressional Black Caucus. And not only Black Caucus, but some of the younger, specifically members who are minority women, who are expressing themselves, like a Cori Bush and others, who really are finding a way to call out those who are really against progressive politics. And so she provides that kind of legacy and that kind of radicalism.
Here's my exit question. What then, to your mind, is her enduring, her abiding legacy?
Her abiding legacy, I think, is as you mentioned, her being unbought and unbossed. And it's not just having the will and the strategy to go against the grain, but also it's a telltale sign of being unbought and unbossed is being the ability to accept the wrath of people who don't agree with you. Being unbought and unbossed also has its limitations, but in many ways it's, Chisholm's fierceness of being unbought and unbossed and being connected to people that provides a political legacy for years to come and finds a way to, connect to marginalized people throughout the world.
Yeah. A lot of folk have been giving credit for this quote, which I know is a favorite of our guest, Dr. Zinga A. Fraser, a favorite Shirley Chisholm quote. A lot of folk giving credit for this, and people have said it in a variety of different ways, but she said it first, and she said it best. Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. Service is the rent we pay for the privilege of living on this earth. We celebrate the life and legacy of Shirley Chisholm. Would have been 98, where she's still here today, but her enduring legacy is ongoing. And we want to take a moment today, an hour of our show today, to just dedicate it to the memory, again, to the life and legacy of the great, the iconic, the legendary Shirley Chisholm. Couldn't have done it without Dr. Zinga A. Fraser, who's director of this Shirley Chisholm Project on Brooklyn women's activism. What a great hour. What a great conversation. Thank you, Dr. Fraser, for your time and for sharing those beautiful insights.
Thank you so much, Tavis, and thank you for honoring Chisholm.
It's my
really
great,
appreciate it.
My great honor and delighted to have had you on. That is our show for today. Back tomorrow morning, Lord willing, to do it all over again. 9 a.m. to 12 noon Pacific time now for the KBLA Midday Money Chain. Up next, the Millionaires Roundtable with Lynn Richardson. After that, Najee Roberts, ahead of the crypto curve. Old money, new money, don't matter. We got you covered here on KBLA Talk 1580. Until tomorrow morning, thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries is making history after being appointed to lead Democrats in the House. The Democratic caucus unanimously voted in favor of the 52-year-old to become the first black leader in any chamber of commerce. A former district attorney in Georgia will have a court hearing in late December in connection with the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Jackie Johnson is accused of hindering the police investigation behind Arbery's death in February of 2020. She allegedly told officers not to arrest a suspected gunman, but her lawyers say there's no evidence. Her charges include an oath of office violation. The first trailer is being released for The Best Man, the final chapters. The limited series takes place more than 2 decades after the release of the original film. The Best Man, the final chapters will be available for streaming on December 22nd. And that's the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
NetSpend All Access. Get the mobile banking account with perks that add up. Banking services provided by and account established by Pathward NA. Member FDIC. Deposit account opening is subject to registration and ID verification. Terms and costs apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The number one item on the game plan for the Lakers tonight against Portland is to hold a lead in the fourth quarter. The Lakers blew a 17-point lead midway through the fourth quarter in Monday's loss to Indiana. The Lakers defense will get a boost tonight with the return of Patrick Beverley after his 3-game suspension. UCLA's women's basketball team found out why South Carolina is number one in the country. The Bruins had only 3 baskets in the final 10 minutes in a 9-point loss to the defending national champs. It was the Bruins' first loss of the season after a 7-0 start. Jackson State football coach Deion Sanders said he will make a decision on the job offer from Colorado after Saturday's SWAC championship game against Southern. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to your settlement, we're a slam dunk. Call 833-MVP-WINS or check their website at themvp.com for a free case review.
When you're the victim of a car accident, hiring the right law firm can be the difference between a rewarding settlement and striking out. Call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys at 833-MVP-WINS for your free consultation.
Call on me, your MVP.
Hi, I'm Tavis Smiley. As KBLA Talk 1580 host, we never quite know where the conversation is going to go. But sometimes our guests really surprise us.
Let me just close with saying I downloaded your app while we were talking. It's a terrific app. I look forward to it. I'm enjoying your format and what have you. I will tweet it to my several 100,000 followers and call their attention to it as well.
If the KBLA 1580 app is enticing enough for our guests to download and share, you should download the app and share with your friends too. That's beautiful. What you say? So, download the KBLA 1580 app today and take us with you wherever you go. KBLA Talk 1580.
You are now rocking with the best.
We got a lot to talk about.
Welcome forward now. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson, here on KBLA Talk 1580. And we are creating millionaires, one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time. And that means you. The harvest is here, the time is now. And yes, it is the season not only to reap what you have sown, but also to wait on God for the sowing that you have done. All too often, we want to put in the time and then we want to get the dime right away. All too often, we are impatient with ourselves and others. Welcome forward now. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson, here on KBLA Talk 1580. And we are creating millionaires, one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time. And that means you. The harvest is here, the time is now, and yes, it is the season not only to reap what you have sown, but also to wait on God for the sowing that you have done. All too often, we want to put in the time and then we want to get the dime right away. All too often, we are impatient with ourselves and others for the things that we believe we deserve, for the things that we have worked for, and for the things that we see that other people have. But what I am telling you right now is to wait on God. I've talked about this before, and as I've said, sometimes the teacher has to, state the lesson again in order for us to get it. And I keep saying that the harvest is here and the time is now, but I think that some of us are a little impatient with the process of understanding where the harvest is actually taking place in our lives. So I want to just share a few things about waiting on God. There were times in my life, and my grandmother used to always tell me, she'd say, Lynn, you're running ahead of yourself. And I never knew what that meant, except that I always felt a little rushed, a little crazy, a little anxious, and a little overzealous when it came to everything. But I was used to accomplishing pretty much anything that I set out to accomplish because I would just go at everything full steam ahead. But she used to always say, Lynn, you are running ahead of yourself. Well, let me help you understand this. There was a time in my life where I thought that the things that I'm doing right now, I felt like I deserved to do those things back then. I remember when I first wrote Living Check to Monday, the real deal about money, credit, and financial security. Here's the real deal. I was living check to Monday when I wrote the book, okay? I was living check to Monday when I wrote the book, and I remember Oprah started the Great American Debt Diet. And I reached out and I wanted to be on Oprah, and I thought that I had the book that was gonna help everybody get over their money problems. And the truth is, I needed to wait on God, because although I had identified the problem and had been able to articulate the solution, I had not lived it out yet. I had not gotten to the other side.
And so what I realized now is I was not going to be able to take people a place that I had not been. Even though I could talk about it, I had to be about it. Even though I could identify it, I had to actually go through the test. You know, I often say, whenever there is a testimony, there is a test. And whenever there is a message, there is a mess. And sometimes we've got to go through our test and we've got to get through our mess in order to get to the next step. Now, I've said this before, and once again, I'm going to say it again, because this is the season for you to tap into the one thing that you have that is going to propel you to the next state. And it is the season of gratitude. Gratitude dictates your attitude, and your attitude basically generates the energy for all of your resources, your blessings, and how things move in and out of your life. You know, in the Bible, Jacob, the story is told about how Jacob wanted to marry Rachel so badly that he worked for 7 years in order to marry Rachel. And when the 7 years was up, Rachel's father did not give him Rachel. He gave him Leah, which by, the account in the Bible, Leah was not attractive, or she may have only been marginal looking, or whatever the case may be. But he wanted Rachel. And so then he worked another 7 years and he finally got Rachel. But then when he got Rachel, he did not treat Leah well. As a matter of fact, he did not treat Leah well to the extent that Leah was the one that was having all the sons, and then Rachel was the one that came up in the end. And so we know that because of Jacob's treatment of Leah, I believe that was a direct impact on Rachel and her sons. We know that Joseph got sold into slavery. Now, ultimately, at the end of that story, there was a great success, but we do know that Leah was able to benefit because she waited on God, and she waited on God with integrity. And had Jacob waited with integrity, and then once he got what he waited for, if he had behaved appropriately, who knows what suffering they might have been able to avoid. So I'm still talking about the harvest. I am talking about it's here now. But some of us are opening up the window every single day, and we're looking outside and we're waiting on it to come, and we are impatient, and we are beating up on ourselves, and we are going through guilt trips, and we're trying to figure out, when is my money going to come? When is my breakthrough going to come? When is my blessing going to come? I have been working and working and working and working for it, but I'm going to tell you right now to wait on God. And I'm also going to tell you to wait on God with the truth. I shared before, and I'm going to share again, the story of my friend whose friend had been out of work for such a long time. And because she was out of work, she was desperate to get a job. And so she finally came upon an opportunity, and she asked my friend to write her a letter of recommendation, because all she needed to get this other job was a recommendation that she had done that work before. And so my friend had her own company. And I remember she called me the next day and she said, Lynn, even though this is my friend, she said, I could not write the letter. She said, because if I write the letter and it is not the truth, then we cannot give God the glory for the blessing that we think would come after that. And so that was such a powerful message for me. It was such a powerful lesson that sometimes we are waiting on God, but we want to rush things a little forward. We want to move them faster than they're willing to go, or that faster than it's going. And sometimes we want to bend the truth just a little bit. What I'm telling you right now is to stand upright. What I'm telling you right now is to look straight ahead. What I'm telling you to do right now is to keep putting one foot in front of the other. What I'm telling you to do right now is to sow and reap and understand that the harvest is here, but wait on God with integrity. Why? Because this is your season to win. And we don't want anything interrupting what God has for you right now. The harvest is here and the time is now. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
More of the Millionaires Roundtable with Lynn Richardson when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap for my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Maisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
If you have certain chronic conditions such as
heart disease, asthma,
diabetes, and you're 19 years of age or older,
52, 36,
42, you may be at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a Pfizer vaccine that can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. The most commonly reported side effect was pain at the injection site. For additional common side effects and full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
I'm going to ask my doctor about getting vaccinated.
With Prevnar 20.
With one of the best savings rates in America, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Even easier than choosing Slash to be in your band.
Next up for lead guitar. You're in.
Cool. Yep, even easier than that. And with no fees or minimums on checking and savings accounts, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours.
Spilled your milkshake? Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up spills quicker. And each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less than the leading Ordinary brand. So you can get back to your milkshake.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Welcome forward now. This is the Millionaires Roundtable here on KBLA Talk 1580, and this is Lynn Richardson, and we are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time, and that means you.
I think that there are some things that we have to take advantage of, and like there are a lot of changes happening, and some of them may be retroactive as it relates to the tax code. And I think, the thing that people need to understand is you hear a lot about, first of all, the taxes in California. If you live in some of these states where I guess they're just driving out the folks. And I mean, by all intent and purposes and definition, they could be talking about you and I, but I know what to do to protect my wealth. So I'm not going anywhere. But what a lot of people don't realize is these tax changes and these financial, changes that are taking place are not just going to impact the quote unquote rich. It's going to impact everybody who's just above poverty. Everybody who's just above poverty, because many of the changes in the tax code that many of us have access to that we don't know about, some of them are going to shift a bit. So people need to get empowered now. And one of the things that Sandy Bakken, my mentor, said when we were moving out of 2020, coming into 2021, is to get as many of your tax write-offs and things as you can now, because when changes take place, you want to have that nest egg set up so that you can better, flow with what's happening. And the time is now, because if something happens, if the hammer comes down, you can't really go backwards. You can only go forward. So, getting an education is important. And you said something like, you said when you wanted to act and do voiceover, that you went and took classes. But there were, I think when you mentioned that when you did your first audition, you hadn't taken any classes. And I think what happens is we go out, we don't take the class, and we learn the hard way. Can you tell us about that and what that was like and what made you take the shift and made you take it so quickly?
Absolutely. And I think that probably was the only time I ever stepped somewhere unprepared. I had a book of rhymes and had been rapping from the age of 8 to 16 before I got into that audition for that record label. I was ready. Anything after that audition, I was ready. I just wasn't ready, and no one had given me the word about how I should be prepared. I should have known that myself. But I believe at 17, 18 years old, I went into that audition, and I sat in front of that guy, and I read completely from the paper. I didn't even look up at him once or twice. Now, first off, I really didn't want to do it. I think it was Freddy Krueger. It was one of them scary movies. And they just wanted to see MC Light. And I went in there, and at least I could have been prepared. And so after that instant, let me tell you, Lynn, it's not a time I go into a room unprepared. The most I can do. Matter of fact, I drive you crazy when it's time for me to do a speech, because I'm talking to you about the speech 3 weeks before the time, and you tell me, what the hell are you talking to me about, sir? I got to deal with what's right in front of me right now. I'm like, okay, I got to DJ this gig on July 4th.
July 4th, 2026. I'm like...
And I'm like, okay, what's the audience like? Who am I playing for? So you understand my need to be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
I just love being prepared. And once I'm prepared, all fear, all apprehension, hesitancy, all of it goes out the back window, because I'm showing up, I'm showing out, I'm aware, and I'm in the moment. And you can only be in the moment when you're not worried about the past or the future. And that's where I want to be, right here in this moment.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And I guess for me, there are some things that I do on the fly. Like, I don't really prepare for speeches. I kind of figure it out once I'm there, because every time I try to say what I want to say before I get there, the energy of the people is different. So, it all comes down to what it is that works for you. But of course, when I'm doing a sermon, I've got to prepare. I've got to know, I can't be going up there winging it with God's people. I got to make sure I know what I'm talking about, because I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to get in the upper room when it's time. When it's time, not right now. When it's time. I always say, I know for sure, Demetrius and, a few other people, I know they going to heaven, and they going to have to let me in the back door, because they might, they're going to have to let me in. They're going to have to be like, now listen, we got to let our girl in. A few of y'all might have to, let me in. But God is going to be good with me, because I'm going to keep all the unruly people in check.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm going to keep all the unruly people in check. But, just seriously, though, time is of the essence. And, time is of the essence when it comes to, understanding how to make your money grow. Once again, so many people did well by, understanding the stock market and learning that game last year. But now is the time to understand what's new, what's moving, what are the trends right now. And we really can't afford to wait. We can't afford to let somebody else figure it out for us. We've got to get in the game ourselves. And with time is money, the thing I want to say is this, because everybody's getting excited about things opening up. Does everybody understand when things open up, that means you're going to go out and spend more money? Do you really understand that you're going to actually go out and spend more money once things start opening up? So, we want to make sure that as we open up and as we move around, that we're also being strategic about it. And now is the time to make sure that you put that strategy in place. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable.
Let's talk about real estate, real estate, real estate.
Hi, I'm financial expert Lynn Richardson. You've seen me on Good Morning America, The Breakfast Club, and KBLA Talk. I'm so excited about sharing with you the Home Buyers Club. It's time for you to get the home of your dreams. No credit, no problem. Low credit, no problem. No down payment, no problem. I am excited about you getting a piece of the American dream. Join the Home Buyers Club today. Don't hesitate and think for one moment that your business cannot be a world-class business. It can absolutely be a world-class business. I tell people all the time, Amazon started out as a home-based business. Microsoft started out as a home-based business. Facebook started out as a home-based business, a college-based, home-based business. So you can absolutely get to where it is you're trying to go if you understand that time is money. Time is of the essence. So I've got a list of things that I think we need to be concerned about when it comes to, taking the next step that we need to take. Number one on the list I have is health. For me, that's what wealth starts with. It starts with good emotional, mental, and physical health. And it has been now 14 years since I lost 100 pounds, and I had weight loss surgery, and I researched for years, and I didn't know what to do, and I kept getting stuck. And I met my soror, Santita Jackson, and she told me about what she had, and I was like, that's it for me. And I did the research, I prayed, I got it done. And what I realized is when I lost the physical weight, I did not just lose the physical weight, I lost the emotional weight, and things were different. I never felt like I couldn't be successful being 100 pounds overweight, but I can tell you once I was no longer 100 pounds overweight, there was a whole new world that opened up just in terms of my energy and everything else. So, health is key. And I think all too often, when folks are trying to make it to the next level, what I'd also have to say is like the very next year when the recession hit, and I was on food stamps, but I was 100 pounds smaller. I had faith. I had my health and my strength, my family. And that's when I found everything. So I know that you are, you and I are a little opposite here. You eat nothing. I eat everything. I say that jokingly, but health is important to you. How do you, make this part of your daily, time is of the essence strategy, when it comes to your health?
Oh man, absolutely. Tony Robbins, I remember back in the late 90s, he had a program where everything was equated to pleasure and pain. Okay, so really identifying what works better for you. Is it the concept of getting closer to pleasure, or is it the concept of getting further away from pain? And so with anything that I need to make a decision on quickly, I kind of throw it into one of those buckets. Or I attempt to, but really it's the psychology of, okay, what is it going to be like if I'm on TV, and TV already adds 10 pounds. So I don't have the luxury of eating chips and nachos and burgers and pizza and all of the things that are going to pack on the pounds when I have to be on TV in less than however many weeks, months, days. And really, as a celebrity and someone who's in front of the camera most of the time, I can't spend a whole lot of my time getting ready. I have to be ready because it plays a part in my mental and emotional well-being. When I have to show up and I'm not looking or feeling the way that I want to, and some people may say it's vain, whatever. If I want to bring my best self to the party, and you too want me as my best self, because if not, I'm not going to want to be there long. I may not even want to go. What am I going to fit? Can I fit into this? Can I fit? Like, I don't want that to be my holdup. I don't want that to be the thing that stops me from getting anywhere. And that's weight. Because I really can put in the discipline and not only just be the size that I want, but be healthy. I don't want to not eat at all. That's not my ticket. I just want to put things in my body that are going to feed it. Because you honestly are what you eat. And when you back up, you take a cleanse, you get everything cleansed out of the system, you can tell what is good to your body and what's not. And who wants to put something that's just okay? We don't watch things that are just okay. I mean, I would hope we don't. We don't listen to things that are just okay and just average. We want optimum fuel in our tank. And so for me to have vegetables and to have all of the things that are going to bring me to a point of feeling alive and vibrant and vivacious, those are the things that I want to put in. And you know what? I have to attribute it to my mom. I saw her as a child make decisions to go to the gym. I think at 18, she gave me a Jack LaLanne membership. And I thought I was the bomb because back then it was like $1,000 to get into a Jack LaLanne membership. And so I was so happy that I could go to the gym on my own and do the things necessary to pull up, tighten up, get right, get that body together. So I attribute that to my mom and seeing her work ethic when it came to bicycling and just doing all of the things outdoors that it takes to keep yourself in shape and keep yourself positive, with a positive mindset.
Yeah, and what people need to also understand, that's not necessarily a certain weight. It might not even be a certain size. I look at so many pictures of you and I standing next to each other on the red carpet, and people wouldn't necessarily know that I'm like 40, 50 pounds heavier than you, because I carry my weight differently. So, but I'm very comfortable with my size. But my size would be like obese for some people, or what have you, even after having lost 100 pounds. And so it's not necessarily about size. It's about how you feel in what you do. And as a matter of fact, 14 years ago, I was one size, but now I really need to be about 5 to 7 pounds heavier than that at this age with this hormone level of whatever all this stuff is working around up in here. So it's about being comfortable, but you hit the nail on the head. I had so many things I wanted to do in my life. I had messed up financially. I was a young mother and wife, and I knew I wanted to make a difference in the generational curse of poverty in my family. I wanted to set a new paradigm, and I didn't want to be thinking about weight. And I was thinking about weight. And so I would say to people, there was a time when I didn't think about it, but really I was thinking about more than weight. I was thinking about diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease and all of those things. So, I just really encourage us to kind of look at those things. And it's hard. I think one of the funniest things I've seen all year was Will Smith on Instagram with that body of his and that belly hanging over. I was just,
that was just too much. And then he had everybody on the internet doing it. No. Please put them bellies away.
You are nuts. You are crazy. But no, but he said something in there. He said, this body carried me through the pandemic. And let me tell you, I got a preaching moment. I was like, now, you telling the truth, because I know I had my multiple days of having my red lobster with the butter and the this and the that and so on and so forth. So, we've had those moments, but what are we going to do to move past that? So, I just say to everybody, time is of the essence right now. Today is it.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Lynn Richardson is making millionaires. One family, one day, $1, one dime at a time. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Doug Davis, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Today's show, weatherman Al Roker is back in the hospital. Page 6 reports he fell ill the day after Thanksgiving and was rushed back to the hospital from his home in New York City. Just 24 hours prior to the latest incident, Roker was released from the hospital where he was receiving treatment for a blood clot in his leg, which traveled into his lungs. The economy showed more growth than expected in the third quarter. The growth came out to 2.9%. The expansion comes after the economy had shrunk in the previous 2 quarters. Megan Thee Stallion is now the first black woman to cover the Forbes annual 30 Under 30 issue. The cover story interview talks about Megan's $13 million earnings for 2022, which comes from music royalties, performances, and endorsements. And that is the latest. I'm Doug Davis from the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
NetSpend All Access. Get the mobile banking account with perks that add up. Banking services provided by and account established by Pathward NA. Member FDIC. Deposit account opening is subject to registration and ID verification. Terms and costs apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The number one item of the game plan for the Lakers tonight against Portland is to hold a lead in the fourth quarter. The Lakers blew a 17-point lead midway through the fourth quarter in Monday's loss to Indiana. The Lakers defense will get a boost tonight with the return of Patrick Beverley after his 3-game suspension. UCLA's women's basketball team found out why South Carolina is number 1 in the country. The Bruins had only 3 baskets in the final 10 minutes in a 9-point loss to the defending national champs. It was the Bruins' first loss of the season after a 7-0 start. Jackson State football coach Deion Sanders said he will make a decision on the job offer from Colorado after Saturday's SWAC championship game against Southern. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. This sports report was brought to you by MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to your settlement, we're a slam dunk. Call 833-MVP-WINS or check their website at themvp.com for a free case review.
Congratulations to this week's KBLA Talk 1580 Office of the Week, LA County Department of Children and Family Services. LA County Department of Children and Family Services promotes child safety and well-being by partnering with communities to strengthen family. Congratulations, LA County DCFS.
Did you know it pays to drive electric? With government rebates, you'll save thousands on the purchase of a new or used EV. And the more you drive, the more you'll save, both on fuel and maintenance far into the future. Start seeing savings today. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
KBLA Talk 1580 wishes you a happy holiday and wants to bless you with one night only. A Wonder Winter's Night presented by Stevie Wonder's House Full of Toys benefits concert. Saturday, December 17th at Microsoft Theater. Download the KBLA Talk 1580.com mobile app to enter to win a pair of tickets. This has been a community call to action brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580.
Health is Wealth and Medicare and Covered California's open enrollment for medical insurance is here. RHJ Insurance Agency can help you find affordable rates and the plan that's just right for you and your family. Call 562-204-6120 for your free quote. Don't leave your health to chance. Open enrollment is here and affordable coverage is just a phone call away. Call 562-204-6120 for your free quote and get the coverage you need. Go to www.rhjins.com.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome forward now. This is the Millionaires Roundtable here on KBLA Talk 1580, and this is Lynn Richardson, and we are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time, and that means you.
I had a C-section. I had then there were fibroids, and there was the weight, and so I just kind of address things, quickly as they come and nip them in the bud and keep moving, so that I can continue to try to, live this life and be the light that I think God wants me to be. No pun intended. So health, mental health, we got to deal with that. I think one of the things that we are not necessarily seeing the full effect of is the effect of the mental health, the effects that the pandemic has taken on mental health.
Yeah, people who are in recovery. And they've shared with us that many of folks have gone out during this pandemic. And when I say gone out, I mean they've OD'd because it was just too much pressure for them. And they decided that this was no longer a journey that they wanted to be involved in. And that has everything to do with post-traumatic stress of any kind. You know, years ago, they didn't have a name for it. And then when they did, they tried to equate it to just folks who had gone off to war. But the numbers are very high for those who suffer from post-traumatic stress from just living, from just being in a home atmosphere where there's some sort of abuse, some sort of molestation, some sort of abandonment. Issues like that have really put us all in a state of quandary, really, because you haven't gone through a war per se in Kuwait or Iraq or wherever, but it's right here on homeland with people that you love and with people that say they love you and possibly do, just don't know how to love you right. And so, yeah, mental health is a huge issue and how it is that people choose to deal with it. And I always say, therapy. I hear so many more people saying, Black folks don't believe in therapy. I disagree with that. I see so many more Black men and women choosing the route of talking to either their church council or, a therapist or a family therapist of that nature. So, yeah, everybody understands there's a deeper level to this. And if you're ever going to get to it and be free of these weights and all that baggage, you're going to need to talk about it, deal with it, go deep so you can get out the other end.
You have just said a whole thing. And I think when it comes to mental health, it starts with a very small thing. It's when you're not feeling okay. And that is at any given moment in time. I wake up and I feel angry. I wake up, I feel depressed. I wake up, I don't want to go to school or work. I wake up, I don't like the people that I see in my house. I mean, truthfully, all of those are signs that mentally or emotionally or both, either something is off balance around us or we are off balance. And the whole idea is to move it into harmony and to address it. MC Light is here with me today. Time is of the essence. The time is now. And we're talking about, really time is money. And a lot of people lost money because they didn't act. I started the class. People felt something and they came to the class. And then some people started their business and others didn't. And those who did were able to reap the benefits of what the government made available to those who had started their businesses by February 15th, 2020, and those who didn't suffered, and they still have not changed the date. So we want you to think, but also to move and know the difference between the two, and that's called wisdom. Knowing when to think, knowing when to discern, knowing when to move, knowing when to stop and hold. And Light, as we talk about mental health, and I say the time is now, this case with Aaliyah Taylor, who was beaten and pretty much presumed dead by her then live-in boyfriend, Chad Wheeler. She's been on pretty much every talk show and she's come out to talk about it. And they had been together, I think dating for about 6 months or something to that effect. They were living together. Everything was wonderful. And that day, earlier, while she was at work, he sent her a picture. And she shares that he had cut off all his hair. And she was alarmed when she saw the picture because she knew him to be someone, he loved his hair. And if you look at pictures of him, if you Google him and look up his picture, he had lots of hair, it's long, like a rock star, a hippie, whatever. And he had lots of long hair. And all of a sudden, he's bald. But not just that, he was quiet. He was different. She knew something was wrong. She went home anyway. When she got home, she further knew something was wrong. And then what she says he said, he told her to bow down. See, let me tell you something.
Wait, I'm moving the furniture out the way right now.
Child, let Demetrius show up on a picture somewhere looking strange. And I don't know, recognize who, what, when, where, why, or how much. Let him show up and let me come home and he say something. See, what you have to understand, and so what she, already knowing something was terribly wrong, she stayed in the situation and he basically strangled her what he thought was to death. The second time he strangled her and she passed out both times. The second time she woke up, he said, "Oh, you're still alive?" And now she tells the story, and apparently he had a manic break or something to that effect.
Yeah.
And she said he was just different. I call it the devil, honey. Y'all could run around here not believing in Satan. I don't believe in him, but he exists. And let me tell you, the devil and demons got a job, just like God and his angels got a job. So, people can become overwhelmed by a spirit. And as a matter of fact, everybody is operating by spirit, one or the other. But that's a whole nother story. Join me for the spiritual path to wealth and prosperity on Sundays. But the whole idea is she was supposed to get out before she went in.
Get out before you go in.
Let me tell you, those scary movies and the person hears something and they got to go see what it is. Let me tell you what Lynn Richardson going to be looking at. The back of whatever it was. I'm going in the opposite direction. The time is of the essence. You might not have a second chance to get that deal or get that opportunity or be ready or, escape from something with your life. And this whole thing really is two things on the end of this spectrum. It's the clearly he was in a, emotionally and a mentally ill state. And she saw it and made some choices. And of course, it's certainly not her fault at all. But we can take these kinds of examples and apply them and know how to move accordingly.
Yes, you know what? I'm in total agreement. Yeah, I remember that story when it surfaced, and I just was, first off, I don't want to say, I guess I was relieved that she was still alive.
Yes.
And, it just goes to show you have to be in tune. And when you have those instincts, God has given us the Holy Spirit for a reason. And when she noted, something is wrong, he didn't look the same, his hair was cut off, we would have had to do a whole lot more talking on the phone for me to be able to show up there.
Yes.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Courage is contagious. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
3 Bay Area counties have black women chief prosecutors. Maisha Cairo here with your K-Black Minute News, brought to you by CaliforniaBlackMedia.org. Civil rights attorney Pamela Price made history when she was elected Alameda County's first African-American district attorney. Price joins 2 other black women, Contra Costa County DA Diana Becton and San Francisco DA Brooke Jenkins, holding the same office in their Bay Area counties. Price is the 5th black woman to be elected district attorney in California. Former DAs on the list are Vice President Kamala Harris, who was San Francisco's DA from 2004 to 2010, and Jackie Lacey, who was Los Angeles County's DA for 2 terms from 2012 to 2020. KBLA listeners, what are your thoughts on these offices being held by black women? Let us know on all social media platforms at KBLA 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Leaving things half done? Not a good option. Like a half-baked peach cobbler.
A gummy crust? I don't think so.
A half-done hairdo.
All done.
Shouldn't the curls be on both sides?
Or a half of a domino.
Bam! Big 6!
But where's the other half?
Don't go halfway, especially with your immunity to COVID-19. Keep everyone safer this season by staying up to date with your vaccines and boosters. Visit myturn.ca.gov to find one near you. Brought to you by the California Department of Public Health.
The Institute for Diversity Certification is all about the 3 Ds: dedication, determination, and discipline. Learn more about our globally recognized diversity certification program today by calling 1-800-983-6192. Again, 1-800-983-6192, or visit diversitycertification.org. As the #1 organization for certified diversity professionals and also certified diversity executive credentials, diversitycertification.org will provide an opportunity for you to demonstrate dedication to the field, determination to make progress, and more discipline to your process. Go today and learn more about the diversity certification system. Call 1-800-983-6192. Again, 1-800-983-6192. Or go to diversitycertification.org. That's diversitycertification.org. The standard of excellence, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
If you're the victim of a car accident, call the pros at MVP Accident Attorneys. When it comes to getting the maximum compensation you deserve, our team hits it out of the park. Call 833-MVP-WINS for a free case review.
Call on me, your MVP.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Welcome forward now. This is the Millionaires Roundtable here on KBLA Talk 1580, and this is Lynn Richardson, and we are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time, and that means you.
Yes, time is money. We're talking about it here on the Millionaires Roundtable. We're talking about the unfortunate incident with the young lady who was dating the football player, and everything was going great until it wasn't. And all of a sudden he cut off all of his hair, and it was very strange.
Yeah, because that in itself was a sign, was a God-given sign. It's just like when that woman was attacked. I think you and I talked about that, and she had her children with her. And it was a guy inside her house talking about he wanted to do something with the lawn, but she knew by the way he looked that something was wrong with him, and then he wound up snatching the baby.
Yeah, she was walking through like a wooded area, and he appeared and said hello, and instantly she was afraid. Instantly.
Yeah.
But this is why I'm not polite. I'm just gonna tell y'all right now.
Yeah, she ain't, y'all.
I am not polite. They know. They listen to. They love me anyway. I am not polite. Okay.
Well, you ain't nothing but a Chicago.
Let me tell you.
South and West.
She shared that the reason why she did not say something or express any is because she wanted to be polite. She didn't want to be rude. Let me tell y'all, I don't curse in public, but excuse me, damn rude. Okay. Your children are with you. When you feel like something is off, I would have said at the loudest I possibly could, what are you, blah, 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 and where are you, da, 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 and I'd have been calling, and so she said, oh, even though she was afraid, she turned around and kept walking, and the next thing you know, she was fighting for her life and life of her children. She got away to tell the story. She lived to tell the story. The kids were not, but you know something is wrong, and I would rather be rude than dead.
Hey.
Okay? I'd rather be called a traitor. Oh, well, I wasn't feeling good and you didn't come by to see me. And no, because I was afraid. I was afraid. And so I think we got to stand in our power and know if and when the time is now.
Because if you don't know what time it is, your time could be up. Your time could be up. And, I'm just so thankful to Light for joining me here today. And I want to move into what it is that we have to do in order to properly discern what time it is. Let me just say a few things to you. I said time is money. More importantly, energy is like money in the bank. Once you spend it, it is gone. And I think each and every one of us has to ask ourselves on an hourly basis, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, and a monthly basis, how am I spending my energy? Now, for me, for a lengthy time period, I was dealing with the energy of COVID. I lost a very close person. My godmother passed, and it was devastating. But I then spent my energy helping my god sister recover. And then I spent my energy in another crisis, and I spent my energy in another crisis. And then one day I looked up and I had no more energy for anything or anyone. So each and every one of us has the ability to properly discern what time is it? Is it time to run? Is it time to stay? Is it time to go? What I know is the harvest is here and the time is now.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Lynn Richardson is making millionaires. One family, one day, $1, $1 at a time. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
On Saturday, December 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., come out and enjoy a free community health fair, co-sponsored by Pleasant Hill Baptist Church Health Ministry and the Central Neighborhood Health Foundation. The fair will be held on the church grounds at 2009 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, with free health screenings, refreshments, jumpers for the kids, a visit from Santa, entertainment with a DJ, free food giveaway for the first 100 people who attend, as well as raffles and other prizes. There will also be open enrollment health insurance representatives present. Attendees can get free blood pressure, glucose, HIV and STD testing, a dental screening, fluoride varnish, COVID testing, vaccines and boosters. Flu shots will also be offered. Housing navigation, mental health support, and education services will be available. Don't miss this free community health fair. Tell somebody and receive the gift of preventative health services this season. See you all on Saturday, December 3rd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 2009 West Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Los Angeles.
KBLA Talk 1580, putting the spotlight on culture and community. The Rodney King Foundation works in the community to promote positive race relations and achieve social justice. The foundation provides advocacy, educational scholarships, and the powerful Walk in Love initiative. The Rodney King Foundation seeks a world of hope, tolerance, and social justice, where divisiveness has been overcome and all people live together peacefully and harmoniously. Executive Director, Founder Laura King is striving to enhance the community's self-esteem, health, social services, and social justice locally and worldwide. The foundation is dedicated to continuing the message of Laura's father, the great Rodney King, to promote peace and #GetAlong. For more information, please visit rodneyking.org or call 626-541-2907. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lynn Richardson wants to help you build multiple streams of income and create more passive income for yourself. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable on KBLA Talk 1580.
Money ain't a thing.
Welcome forward now. This is the Millionaires Roundtable here on KBLA Talk 1580, and this is Lynn Richardson, and we are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time, and that means you. So what is the action of the day? What is the word of the hour here on KBLA 1580 Talk? I want you to download the app. I want you to listen, because you cannot get these messages, which are designed to transform your life and teach you how to manifest that the harvest is here and the time is now. You can't just listen to it one time. You've got to listen to it again, and then you've got to share it with someone else, and then you've got to invite over family members or friends and listen to it, take notes, and then talk about it and take action. So the action of the day is to share this with someone. Share all of it. Go to the app, listen to all of the episodes, and start to put your plan in place.